Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the best show of the best shows, where we talk about everything from comic books to even social commentary. This is episode number
11
of For Canon's Sake. So whether you're a normie, a wannabe expert, or a tryhard, get in there. And now, for your host, Mr. Eric July.
Welcome, finally. Another episode of For Canon's Sake. We are like a month behind in terms of when the last episode was released, and I do apologize for that. That's on me, but there's a whole lot of reasoning as to why that is the case, and obviously I gotta be a little transparent to let you all in on it. So when I first popped off my podcast, I had a lot of ideas. As far as what route I was going to take it. But as I was recording the episodes and I was releasing them, which you of course can see over at ericdjuly.com, they're on all live, or the episodes are live on all major digital platforms. You can listen to it on Spotify, iTunes, or Apple Podcasts, whatever they're calling it nowadays. As I'm releasing these, getting feedback and such, it's my first podcast in a long time. And I was like, okay, well, wait a minute. There's some things that I can do better. I can be more efficient. So what I'm going to do, and this is why I laid off, because I wanted to spend a lot of time on it as far as the layout. So the layout is going to be very similar. I'll go through a few topics. I'm still going to give you my pull list for the end of the week, depending on that. But now it's more of a show setup. So what I'm going to do is, instead of just having the episode go live randomly, which maybe the first couple episodes will do that, we're going to get on an actual show schedule. That way you can view it wherever you are at. If you want to watch it live via YouTube, you'll be able to watch it there. Facebook, you'll be able to catch it live. And obviously it will still be, or most of the episode will be uploaded, and you'll be able to see it on a multitude of different platforms, right? So just keep that in mind. We'll have live video. We'll have a live feed now. I'm not going to be as interactive as my live stream. It's going to be a similar setup, but I just wanted to have a setup now that's a little more pro, and with the same sort of layout that I had, but just a little bit more pro. So that's the whole reason as to why I have been slow on uploads. So now there's going to be a lot more episodes of For Canon's Sake. You can also support the show over at patreon.com/EricDJuly, I believe. But we have a lot to get to. It's first show back. There's a lot of things I missed. I've been in a loop, though. If you watch my videos, I would hope you're watching my videos over at youtube.com/YoungRoper59 or at facebook.com/EricJulyTX. I would hope you're watching those videos. They're out there. Obviously, I'm still as interactive as I ever been on social media. But I missed a lot in terms of breaking down some topics, since we have gotten so much news in the comic realm when it comes to live action depiction. And I have to say that I've grown tired. Believe it or not, that can happen. I can grow tired of things and get a little irate. But I've grown tired of what seems to be insult to comic book fans when it comes to criticizing live action depictions of classic comic book characters. So you have characters that are crossing over into the live action films, TV shows, characters that we've long known about as comic book fans. We've long discussed. We've seen them for decades at a time. So many different stories, arcs. But because it is, for example, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is the greatest example that we can point towards right now. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is obviously an appeal to normies. And I don't say that as an insult, right? The way I define normie are those that only surface level know of comic book characters. They don't actually read comics. If they do, they read them very casually. But they know of the characters because of cartoons, movies, things of that nature. So I consider those types of normies. It's not an insult. The vast majority of my fan base, I'd argue, that tends to share my stuff around, take my opinion serious on a lot of the comic book material, are normies, right? So I don't mean that as an insult, but there is a sector of normies that are very, very arrogant, and I have a problem with those types. So, those are the different tiers of normies. There's another tier, but I have a video if you want to go check that out, where I go through the different tiers of normies, but there's different ones. But it's an appeal. These movies, certainly in live action depictions of these characters, are certainly an appeal to those normies, right? So, and I get that. I get that 100%. I understand that. I recognize that. I'm not oblivious to that simple fact. But you can appeal to them while not having to crap on people that are the ones that really fuel the characters. And by that, what I mean is we are the ones that are going to tell the normies about the characters before you ever put the movie out. Say you announce it. Everything's transparent these days. So we know about movies being that are going to be dropped years away from the fact. And we're the ones that tells you about them. We inform you about them certainly before you could just get on the internet and do that, right? We were the ones that did that because we had long loved these characters. We had long been collecting these comic books. So we possessed the knowledge base to do that, right? Also, certainly the main characters that have been test driven for years. You can credit comic book fans, certainly that are way older than me, with a lot of these characters. They are the ones that have fueled the comic books. If it was not for them really supporting them, you wouldn't have these characters appear in live action depiction, right? They are comic book characters. They are reference to source material. No matter how much you hate hearing that term, that is the harsh reality that you must accept. So we have those types that are upset because we dare to say that, well, this is either an inaccurate, character or depiction, rather, or adaptation, or this is a goofy character that should not been, had even gotten a movie, a show, or anything of that nature. It skipped the line, which is what a lot of people maybe see with Captain Marvel, what they saw with Miss Marvel as well. That we have not seen so many of these classic comic book characters, but this is who you throw at us now, right? So if we are critical of it, you don't get to let us, or more so, you don't get to dictate whether or not we should just accept that for what it is. And this largely stems from the simple fact that because of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, now more than ever, comic book depictions are popular, right, among these normies. I'm not saying that they haven't always been, like some of the notable characters such as Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. People have long known about them. But now that you have this very successful world, right, so more than ever, people are Googling. Everybody's Google masters, right? You hear about a character, 30 minutes later, you are an expert. You can now tell me, somebody that's been reading these comics for years, you can tell me what I do and don't know, or what I should not accept, because you went on some fandom site and read a couple of summaries of some arcs or something like that. But you don't get to dictate whether or not we can criticize it or claim that it's illegitimate just because we criticize it and you don't like it, right? You don't like the fact that we're being critical. Now, like, the point that I was making is that because of it's a transparent era, you got social media, you have Twitter. So we see writers, we see directors, we see producers, we see actors, actresses. Everybody has their thoughts that are involved in these projects. We see the interviews, we see all of that. And when you consider, definitely when it comes to like social activism and stuff, unfortunately, now a lot of these guys feels like it's an extension of their activism, right? So now more than ever, we have people that probably should not have access to these characters. They have access to these characters and have their own motives that have zero to do with respecting the source material, right? Now it's to the point that so many people have been critical of some of these projects and some of these characters and some of these plot lines, right? Not only just in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but in the comic books, when you consider a lot of these guys are crossing over and you're getting some really weird guys that are writing these comic books, but also even classic guys that have been sent over the deep end because of maybe, 2016 election. She-Thor. I'm going to call it She-Thor. That ain't her name, but I'm going to call her She-Thor. Jane Foster's Thor, who has hijacked so many people's titles over the last years or so. Thor, All Mother of Asgard. So Valkyrie now. She's Valkyrie now, for those who don't know. She gets announced that she is going to be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I saw Jerry Conway, who is a writer, created some of the characters that you guys know and love. He posts a tweet. He says that basically he is glad that this is a big middle finger, an FU to the comics gator types that were not fond of this character, right? So he's more about, even though this guy has been around forever, again, he went off the deep end. He's just a really deranged sort of leftist if you pay attention to his Twitter. But he's more happy about getting under the skin of the people that were in opposition to it, as opposed to just respecting the source material or even actually acknowledging some of the arguments, right? He's just, well, they didn't like it, therefore it's okay. I'm happy that they're doing this. There's a big FU to them, right? Imagine that. Imagine that that's where we're at with comic books, where we got writers telling the consumers that they dare to be critical of this character, that they're now happy about the character being depicted as an adaptation of the character. They're happy about it because it's a big screw you to the people that were critical of that. That's amazing to me, right? But it's also an insult, and it goes to show where we're at now. We're at a place in time where people are willing to insult the consumers simply because we dare to criticize or disagree with a character being brought up, or a character that exists, whether it be in the comic book or being brought into, let's say, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is incredible. But I've grown tired of that insult because it's a complete slap in the face to the guys that have collected and read mountains and mountains of this source material, right? As if we just have no say. I mean, I'm the one that people come to, my little normie buddies. Hey man, they announced this character. Tell me about him. And I go educate them, right? And this is what I love about comic book culture, is that it has created that sort of culture in general, in which all of us, we have our thoughts about the characters. Certain people are expertise about the writers. Certain people are expertise about just the arcs and storylines, which is what I care more about than who's writing it. But we're the ones that sort of get people stoked on this. And for you to just be like, hey, screw you and your criticism, it's not for you. How many people have told me that? It's not for you. Did I criticize Captain Marvel? It's not for you. It's for the kids. Think about the children, the little girls that are going to be so inspired because they now see Captain Marvel on screen because reasons. And I said, this is the most shoehorned character. It's just, when it comes to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, not only nobody asked for it, but considering the placement, it was just all weird. I dared to say that, and they responded that it wasn't for me. I got mad at the fact they crapped on Monica Rambeau and Marvel's legacy, use them as props, stepping stools, ruining them. One's looking up to Carol Danvers as a child. The other swap his gender, right? Swap the gender. And just completely, this isn't Marvel at all, right? So we got to make it seem like this is the first Captain Marvel. Are you serious? But dare I say that? Dare I be critical of that? It's either I'm an incel, I hate women, or it's not for me, right? I don't get a right to criticize that. Amazing. But I've grown tired of the insult. Because once the Marvel Cinematic Universe is gone and you guys go about your days hopping to the next universe, we will still be around reading these comic books if they haven't all gone to the crapper. But that will be us, right? And it's just, you get those that straw man, first of all, my position about this and saying that, you know, hey, it's not exactly like the comics. It's the favorite thing I like to say. It's a different universe. It's a different universe. Comic books. It's not about the comics. They can do whatever they want. It's a different universe. Do whatever they want. Amazing. They can do whatever they want. What's the point of using a character if that's the case? Nonetheless, I have never, ever, 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 ever said that it should be exactly like the comic book. I understand that definitely when it comes to movies, you have a limited amount of time to grow a character. It's going to be very difficult. It's moving a lot faster. We had years and years, decades of seeing these characters be built up. So I understand that. I respect that. But you can have your own, you can have these different spins, right, on it, while also respecting the source material. You don't have to insult the source material. And I always, and this is kind of a side note, I've always thought that it was weird that people say things like that. I've always thought that it was weird when people are they dare to say that they They dare say that it's a different universe, and they say that it doesn't have to be like the comics. And we're talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which every single major arc can almost be directly pointed to source material arcs. This is where they got their influence from. Not only just with the origins of the main characters in there, they have slight changes, but from the Infinity Wars, which is just the Infinity Gauntlet arc, with its own spin, that's where the damn snap happened, right? Ultron, like all of these different deals we have changes. Like you consider the sort of origin of Ultron, who created him, is a little different. But they point, all the major arcs, certainly dealing with the Avengers, are all pointed to the source material. So I don't understand why now all of a sudden, because somebody dared to criticize it, oh, well, it's a different universe. It doesn't have to be like the company. Well, they've been doing this whole time. But I don't know anybody that's ever said it has to be exactly like the comics. But the fact of the matter is, if it was exactly like the comics, you're so much of a normie that you wouldn't know. It would be new to you anyway, be fresh. Even if they did direct adaptation of let's say a arc, if they say did the Infinity Gauntlet arc from start to finish, all issues. Let's say we even start before then. Let's say we start with like Thanos Quest. And we went all the way up until the end where, you know, Warlock obviously sort of comes out on top. Then he starts the Infinity Watch. If they had that happen, it would have been new to you. It wouldn't have mattered. But now, because we dared to criticize it, well, it's not for us. That's lousy. Nor does that address the actual position that we may have. It's intellectually lazy. It's intellectually dishonest. The next thing I want to discuss, though, kind of goes into why this is the case, because you do see a lot of you see a lot of writers, you see that it's almost like it's been hijacked among some of these activists, if you will, and some of these guys who are knowledgeable on the comic books. Not a whole lot of them, but some guys that are knowledgeable on the comic book that defend some of the goofy things that happen within comics, or the odd things that the Marvel Cinematic Universe does, right? Now, this is going to sound really jacked up, but I don't know what other way to put it. Comic book culture is a niche culture, right? And most of these guys, certainly the dudes, which is a heavily male-dominated deal, not saying that there aren't women that read comics. Of course there are. But these guys are losers, man. And by that, I probably shouldn't call them losers. But let's just say the sort of funky looking dudes that are the stereotypical look of when you have comedies making fun of comic book guys, that's generally how they act and look. Socially awkward, weird. So look at it like this: from when you have something that you've grown to love that for years, maybe your entire life, but hell, certainly in the case of both comic books and anime, people maybe when you were growing up made fun of you for liking it like you do. Now all of a sudden it's the hot thing. So if you take the easy route, certainly with these new social activists that are now picking up being comic book writers, or got sent over the deep end because, again, Donald Trump, or you have the directors and so forth, producers that are part of Marvel that don't even read these damn comics. You can now appeal to them as well as the normies by simply co-signing everything that they do. Why wouldn't that be enticing? Why wouldn't that be like an easy route for somebody who, again, has been socially awkward, made fun of by normies his entire life? And I know that sounds, dang, man, that's kind of harsh. It's kind of messed up. I'm just being 100 with you. Well, I think they do it. Now, I could be wrong about some people. Maybe some of these people really think Jane Foster Story is just a fantastic character. Or maybe they just are like, yes, it's a good character, because they know that the normies will appease them and appeal to them. Say, hey, look at this guy. He reads comics. He likes the character. And this is the most popularity that they're ever going to get when they're looked at in a positive light by some people whose social status is way above theirs, right? This is the first time that they get that. Now, that's just I know that sounds kind of jacked up, but I'm just keeping it 100 with you. Anybody that reads comics knows that some of these dudes, a lot of these dudes, most of these dudes, look, man, they ain't, let's just say that the stereotypes are correct. Funny looking dudes, man. But that's my opinion. You know what I mean? That's just as far as what I analyze. There's no way I can research to say that that's the case. It's not like they're going to admit, yes, I'm doing this because if I become a yes man for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there's going to be all these social status benefits that I'm going to have, right? That I've never had. This is my chance. Of course they're not going to admit that. But that's what I honestly believe. Some people are going to be like, dude, that's messed up. But I'm just being 100 with you. People do that stuff. This is why people virtue signal. That's a thing. People virtue signal. That's what they do. But it is what it is. I'll call that out because I just think that's so whack. And I don't think that opinion is, let's say, representative of the vast majority, the popular opinion among comic book characters. Certainly when it comes to some of these goofy characters that have been created. I'm not saying that the comic book culture that actually buys these comics unanimously hate these characters that I say are goofy. That's not what I'm saying. I just know that they ain't saying that they just glorious like you have some of these guys writing publications or writing on their publications that, well, Miss Marvel is so popular. What dimension are you living on? But moving into this last topic, it's a little aside from the comic books, so y'all bear with me real quick. But I have to talk about this because I did 2 videos on it. And I want to be very, very clear, and I want to have a show right where I kind of go through it that I can reference as new people come across those videos and such. A couple of days ago, prior to the recording of this podcast, we had some weirdos. Well, let me backtrack. NBA 2K20 for years now has had this virtual currency element in which you can spend money to buy the game currency. And in that currency, while utilizing that game currency, you can upgrade your My Player. You can play My Team. You can use the VC to buy packs. You can use the VC to play, to upgrade your GM attributes in My GM, right? Do you have to do that? Absolutely not. But you can do that. That's been the case for years. But centered around My Team, which is the mode in NBA 2K20 that everybody, all the gaming YouTubers seems to have latched on, dropped a trailer. And in that trailer, they had some casino-esque layouts, UI, mini games, if you will. This sent the gaming community, not the gaming community, the YouTube community, the Angry Joes of the world, who have a lot to say about video games. And that Young Yeah guy. The reason why I'm going to mention why I brought those guys specifically, not just a name drop for clout. I just got to be 100 with the situation. So they dropped some videos. And as they're talking about it, you can see that, okay, they saw a slot machine and they just got triggered to the oblivion. Because as they're talking about it, expressing their thoughts, these guys are talking like guys that have not only never played this game, but have no idea what this mode is about. They have the reactions of guys of things that are surprising to them, especially when you consider some of the casino elements surrounding My Team Online, Triple Threat, on or offline, part of the My Team section. Some of the elements that they're freaking out about have already been in the game. These aren't new. But that's what YouTube has become. It gets a lot of views. I ain't mad at nobody for getting views on YouTube. But it's one thing to be a reactionary and be honest and be a reactionary just to be a reactionary. Some of the things that they said were simply not true. Before I get to that, I've long been critical. I have videos documenting this. I've long been critical. Long been critical. It's not a secret. I have long been critical of NBA 2K, pay to win when it comes to My Team. That is, they have a mechanism, or more so, it's created, in which you can spend as much money you want, spend on packs, which you can not only sell those players, but you obviously put them in your lineup, giving you a competitive advantage because the game is so broken. It gives you a competitive advantage. And this game it pretends to be a competitive game. Whereas you can go up against these God squads, people that Moneybags McGee that is used to ran up his credit card to buy all of these characters or players. Now, a lot of people are acting like, well, that aren't knowledgeable on the game, right? Acting like the whole mode is behind a paywall. It is not. You don't have to do that. I mean, 2K actually has a way to where you can earn some good players playing offline. And some good ones, some guys that be part of your guys, because you don't have to. The problem is that, yes, even with those deals, you still have a great competitive advantage if you just have a lot of money to spend. And it shouldn't be like that for a game that tries to be simulation and tries to be competitive in that mode, in that card-based mode. And my team is just one mode. It's not the whole game isn't behind that paywall. It's one specific mode that you guys are seeing with my team, right? But the problem with like Angry Joe and Young, if I'm saying his name right, but the problem with those guys is that they said something which was not true, but they used that as the bulk of their argument, right? And that was that you spend real money and then you play slot machines and casinos stuff. And that simply is not true. In fact, it is a literal lie. As it stands, my team that has that, again, some of those elements right now, the ball dropping, all of that stuff, you can only get that by playing a game. It is the reward system. It's the UI of the reward system. That's it. You cannot spend real money and then play the slots, trigger the slots. Like you spend real money, drop a coin, a virtual currency coin in there, and then that's not how it works. I know some of these guys were making the argument about ratings and stuff. Well, it shouldn't be I don't care about that. The fact that we got these same people that are talking about, just the other week ago when Donald Trump was talking about violence in video games, those same guys are now act like it's the responsibility of the gaming companies and the rating systems to police their kids. God forbid you get your ass off of your ass and go be a parent to your child. Actually pay attention to the media that they're consuming. God forbid you do that. It's the responsibility of 2K, right? But I don't give a shit about all of that. I just thought it was weird that you have these individuals who are like, what about the kids? I expect that from the social justice leftists, but these guys are not talking about what about the kids. They're going to see all the flashing lights and stuff. They're going to get these gambling addictions. Same people that were like violence in video games doesn't make people really become violent people in real life. Just same people believe it said that. Not even just a month ago. Amazing. But you can criticize, and this was my whole point. You can criticize how the game works. You can criticize pay to win. You can even criticize the damn UI. Right, the casino-esque stuff being in the game, which has already been in there for years, by the way. You can always criticize that without signaling to kids, because if you do that, you're being dishonest. A lot of people make the argument, well, I don't want slot machines in a game rated E, right? Which again, I don't care. Fuck the ratings. That never was about my position. But this is a generation of people that grew up playing Sonic, which has the whole casino level, where you literally jump inside a deal and you can keep jumping in it to try to get these rings, to get a jackpot and get the rings. Or you can lose out and get your rings taken from you. Right? Mario, same thing. Slot machines in Mario. All of these games have virtual currency in it that we grew up playing. Some of these games had casino-esque elements, Pokemon on down and up. First thing they say, well, you weren't using real money back then, right? Again, complete post shift. If that's your position, start with that. Don't say it was about kids seeing slot machines then. It wasn't about the kids seeing slot machines. It was about the fact that there's microtransactions. So what you signaling to the kids for? And we're signaling to what they see in terms of, like, that was something completely irrelevant. Don't even mention that. Just say you don't want microtransactions in the game, or you don't want something rated E that has microtransactions. Whatever. I don't care. Say that. But don't move the post because you get corrected. But what both of those guys said, Young Yes specifically said it in his first video, you spend real money on, and then you gamble. Lie. Talking that specific part of the mode with the casino-esque sort of mechanics, if you will. That is a lie. Again, that stuff's in the game right now. My team, Triple Threat, and I showed guys on the stream walking through it on NBA 2K. This ain't me shilling for NBA 2K. I'm just giving you the facts. Again, I'm not even defending this shit being in the game. I'm just giving you the facts. The facts show that only way you can do that is by playing the game. Doesn't matter you have a God squad. Doesn't matter you spend $1,000. Doesn't matter you spent no money. Only way you can do it is playing the game. And after the game, you win, you lose. Depending on the results, how many times you won, depending on if you're playing online or offline, that's how you get that deal. That's the reward system and nothing more. That's it. The reward system and nothing more. That's it. But because of people's hatred of microtransactions, which I believe is just because I hate it too, when it comes to competitive gaming, they are bringing in kids, making bad arguments, lying. I don't care what side you're on. You do not get right to lie. It's like somebody goes and steals something from a store, merchandise. Instead of you rightfully saying that they're thieves, you accuse them of murder. And your excuse is, well, they were a bad person because they stole. It's okay. No, it's not okay. Stick to the arguments. They stole, say they stole. Don't say they did something they did not. It's dishonest. Don't say the game works like it does not. It's dishonest. Certainly when it doesn't, like your overall position, you can use that, you can be critical of that without having to bring that up, without having to lie. It's unnecessary. And if you have to lie, then maybe you shouldn't be making that argument in the first place. I expect that truth, no matter if you're my enemy, no matter if we agree on the subject matter, doesn't matter. Be honest was all I ask. And God forbid somebody did say that, hey, because I've actually played 2K, like, hey, that's not how the game works. And I've been long critical of the microtransactions in NBA 2K long before these guys did. They just saw a trailer and it's new to them. Angry Joe's talking about ML points, which you spend with real money. It's not true. First of all, it's called My Team points. MT. It's not an L. But of course, he doesn't play the game, so he doesn't know about it. So these guys have these strong opinions about games they don't even play. But because it was an opportunity to talk down on microtransactions, they jumped on it and were ill-informed. That's all I said. Got so much backlash. Perfectly fine. Those videos are not going to be taken down. And to be fair, Young, he did correct himself. He corrected himself in one of his newer videos. He said, the first video, the initial video, it was a lie. He told a lie on one specific portion. And I don't care what it is that you are critical of. You can say, well, that's not the point. You're missing the point, right? That's what a lot of people say. You're missing the point, right? Well, no, I'm not. Because I'm arguing in a specific position. You don't get to tell me what the damn point is. Just because they, again, had an end game, maybe they were like, okay, well, it's rated E and it has a casino. I don't like the fairness. Pokemon's rating system had to change. I don't like, all right, fine. I'm not arguing against that. I don't care about the rating system. I don't give a damn about that. I think, again, if you want my honest opinion, you guys need to be parents to your children. God forbid, and this is what trips me out. Got people that send their kids to indoctrination camps called public schools for 5 days, 8, 9, 10 months, which is irrational as it gets as far as I'm concerned. But God forbid a kid see a damn slot machine on a game, right? We grew up playing Sonic, Mario, and all of this. They had all these damn slot machines and casino-esque elements in it. We grew up seeing that. We grew up playing bingo, which you can go to WinStar play right now. Cards. We grew up playing, going to damn Chuck E. Cheese, which is literally a casino for kids. That's what it is. It's a casino for kids. You use literal, real money to play these games, right? Trying to hit jackpots. But when we do all of that, but God forbid a kid sees a damn slot machine on the game that he can't even pay real money to play. Meanwhile, my career portion of NBA 2K has an ante up where you can literally gamble VC that, again, you can earn in game, but you also can spend money on. And you can gamble against yourself, bet against yourself, bet on yourself, excuse me. That's been in the game for I don't know how long, but because, again, they didn't see no damn trailer, these YouTube reactionaries said nothing. But they saw a trailer. Oh, wait, I know this is going to get the views. This is my opportunity. Not even familiar with how the damn thing works, the mechanic works. So now we signaling the kids. Now we saying the game works in a way that we don't, just because we see this as an opportunity to criticize microtransactions in games. You can't just be an adult and say, look, there's a problem with microtransactions when it comes to competitive play. Problem with microtransactions, people are getting half-assed games, loot boxes, giving people competitive advantages. Like, you can say all of that. Though, again, we can play Pokemon Magic the Gathering and all of that, and it was all good. But, hey, neither here nor there. But you can do all of that without having to signal to the kids, without having to lie on how a mode works. That's all I'm saying. That is all I'm saying. You can do that without lying. That's it. That's all I'm saying. And I tell the truth. It ain't got nothing to be doing the shit on 2K. I was criticizing what 2K been doing long before y'all even knew what it is. Again, we got these YouTube reactionaries that never planned to play the game, never played the game, or anything like that. Don't look like they picked up a damn basketball in their life. So, and I'm not even saying like, well, because you didn't talk about it, you don't get to talk. No, but at least be factual about it, because when you aren't educated on the situation, you're literally telling me that, okay, I'm doing this because there's an opportunity here. I say this all the time, even when it comes to comic books. I do not speak on things I don't understand, I don't know about. Everybody asks me what's the latest opinion on a Star Wars trailer, what's going on with Star Wars. I don't know. I don't have an opinion. Why? Because I'm not that knowledgeable on it. Ask me about a comic book character, even though I'm very knowledgeable on comic book characters. I consume a lot of material. There are comic book characters and comic books I don't even read. Hey, people ask me, hey, how you feel about Spawn? I don't know a whole lot about, I own a couple of Spawn comics, but I don't know a whole lot about Spawn. So I tell you, I don't have no strong opinion on that, on characters that I don't know about. I will not put forth my opinion on something that I'm not knowledgeable on. And dare I expect people to do the same thing? Dare I do that? Now I'm a shield. I'm a shield. Because I dare say that's not how the game works. It's a lot of bullshit surrounding the game, but what you saying ain't how it works. You can't spend real money to trigger those parts, those mechanic parts of the game, those gambling mechanics, as y'all call it. You can't trigger that. That's all I said. You're not telling the truth. You're being dishonest. And I would do this. Obviously, I do that with my enemies all the time. You're being dishonest. You're saying people said something they didn't say. You're saying they do something that they didn't do. Why wouldn't I expect that from somebody that I agree with on a lot of different things? Why wouldn't I do that? But God forbid I did that. Got people in the comments talking about I'm a shield, wanting to move the goalposts 99 times. Say I said things I didn't say just because they didn't like the fact that I dared to correct somebody. That's where we're at. It's reactionary YouTube. I should have expected that. Let's get into the pull list.
Yo, Eric, you nerd. Quit with the mumbo jumbo and talk about some new comics. What's on your pull list for the week?
For those that do not know, I give you guys my pull list for the week on certain shows. If I'm doing multiple shows, obviously I'm not going to do that. I like to sort of schedule it in a way that I can already read a lot of the material before I tell you what's on. This was a big week. And I'll just let you in on the books that I pulled for the week that are new. First, we have issue 77 of Wonder Woman. We have issue 5 of Captain Marvel and Ms. Marvel, this Marvel team up. So the reason why I was so big on this was because Marvel popped up. So I'm thinking, oh, what? We got a return of Marvel? What? He returns in issue 4. But it turns out it was just the doppelganger, if you will, Walter Lawson. It wasn't the real Mar-Vell. But I had to see what that was all about, so that's why I have it. But all that's getting settled at issue 5. I think there may be a finale as far as that part of the arc. In issue 6, they're teaming up 2 goofy-ass characters. We have She-Hulk annual with Bullseye. This is kind of a funky annual where She-Hulk basically mind gets switched out with Bullseye and company. It's kind of weird, but you can check that out. We got Thanos issue number 5. We also have Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman Come Back to Me. And this is second issue? Yeah, second issue of Wonder Woman Come Back to Me. We have Batman Superman. I was interested to see how exactly this played out because I don't know. We have this big event with the Year of the Villain, and I thought this was kind of a weird time to drop this. Certainly with the Batman Who Laughs being a part of it, and we have this bomb ending in the Shazam Who Laughs pops up at the end. We have Marvel Comics number 1000. I have not read this yet. We have issue 11 of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. It's just Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. This was interesting. It's a kind of a filler. To be honest, it's a filler issue where it deals with Mary Jane, and I feel like they just wanted to give some love to her. I don't hate it. It's not a whole lot wrong with it. It's just not a whole lot going on as well. But that's all that is. It's just, sort of going through this deal with Mary Jane, kind of. Miles Morales pops up in it as well. But no. Actually, that's important because what happens with sort of Miles Morales in this and how he pops up with this fighting this troll, right? Never mind. I don't want to give it away. I gotta say that for a video. That's issue 11 of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. We got issue 16 of Thor. We have Batman. This is Black Label, Curse of the White Knight, book 2. Doctor Strange, issue 18. We have issue 2 of Absolute Carnage. Now, I do like the fact, or like the route that sort of Absolute Carnage is going. I don't like the fact that we're following up with this major event right after War of the Realms. That I don't like. I think that's a little stupid and unnecessary. We have Absolute Carnage, Tokenized Spider-Man, Miles Morales. We have issue 14 of Justice League Dark. So this is getting spicy. Justice League Dark is one of the better comics out right now. Actually, all 3 of them are good comics, but certainly Justice League and Justice League Dark, these are phenomenal. I believe what happened at the end of this with Circe was, did she meet up with all those villains? I believe is what happened at the end of this. But also it kind of does a continuation of what happened with the Justice League Annual and Swamp Thing as well. So you can read that. That's issue 28. Here we go. Of Amazing Spider-Man. Of course, there's always 29 Spider-Man books out. This is issue 3. We have issue 3 of House of X, which is you have House of X and Powers of X. We're going to get 6 issues. It's basically a reboot, if you will, of the X-Men. So some of these events are starting to make sense. I'm not going to go into too much detail there. And then we have issue 23 of The Avengers, where the mountain actually comes alive. They've been living in this fucking celestial type deal. And things are getting a little weird there. We have, more so the base, Avengers base is there. Issue 77 of The Flash, which is a solid comic as well. So that's going to do it for the pull list there, and pretty much wrapping up the end of the show. Of course, you can get more info on the show, ericdjuly.com if you want. Also, to support the show, I'm going to be updating a lot of because I'm going to do this as a live show now, I'm going to be updating some of the Patreon rewards, certainly going into this month and the future. So you guys not only can support the show, but obviously reap the benefits. I do videos for some of my patrons. I'll be do podcast subject matters that I talk about depending on how much you donate, and so forth. So you'll be able to check that out and get all those shout outs. Again, that's going to be over at ericdjuly.com, patreon.com/ericdjuly as well. If I'm not mistaken, it's my Patreon. I get it kind of tied up sometimes. Eric D. July, there's Eric July TX and stuff. But just check out my Patreon. Patreon link is over at my website at ericdjuly.com.
That's going to do it for today's episode of For Canon's Sake with Eric July. Be sure to keep it locked for the best mix of comics and political commentary you'll ever hear. And I mean ever hear. To get caught up or to contact the show, be sure to visit forcanonsake.com.